So what I want you to do now is I want you to have your pen ready. You'll also notice that you have a highlighter in front of you. Today, as we go through points that you think are really important, I'd like you to highlight those so that when you review the book, you can go through and just look at your highlighted points. From time to time, I'll also tell you that I think certain things are important, and I'll ask you to highlight those as well. But for right now, I want you to check things off. I want you to check off the ones that you consistently do, and then focus on the ones that you need to start implementing, okay? So first of all, these are all-time best practices for having that assault on stage fright. First of all, put aside the persistent recall of a negative speech experience. What I have seen all over the years that I have coached clients in the area of presentation is every one of us, including me, has had a bad experience. Something that either we memorized and we forgot it, or maybe we got up in front of an audience and our notes just got all out of order. You know, remember we used to use those little index cards, and then they just like all fall down, and of course we hadn't put numbers on those index cards, you know, so everybody's got a story. People tell me stories where they got up in front of an audience and all of a sudden they completely lost their throat, you know, no voice. And before that, a minute before, they were speaking fine. So everybody's got a story. I have a story. When I was a kid in high school, I had memorized something for the high school drama teacher. I had that thing nailed. Got up, couldn't get one word of it out. Even at my own wedding, I couldn't say my vows. Can you believe that? I was like, my husband's going, Judi Clements training and development, but I couldn't speak, So we all have those experiences. The key is to shut it out, because the more you relive that bad experience, the more you become a victim of it. So you have to just say, that was then, this is now. I wasn't trained the way I am trained now, and I can do better. So that's the first thing. So you're checking off the ones that you consistently do. Number 2 is actively seek speaking opportunities. Now, most of my clients do just the opposite. They do everything they possibly can to avoid giving a presentation. How can you learn? How can you learn? We forget, don't we? I mean, I haven't driven over to Excelsior College in a couple of months. I couldn't even remember how to get here. The brain forgets. So you have to keep up the skills. You have to keep practicing, otherwise you'll never get good. Number 3, see yourself as a successful speaker. The thing I don't want to hear people say is, I was never good at speaking. Or things like, what I hear people say? I hate the sound of my voice. How can that help you? Can that? Now, number 4, reinterpret physical signs of anxiety as anticipation. Now, each of us is going to get anxiety in different forms. Some people get the butterflies. Raise your hand if you're a butterflyer. Any butterflyer? Yeah. Some people get the dry throat. Any dry throaters? Some people get I had one client sneezes. She sneezes all the time whenever she gets nervous. She sneezes. Doesn't have a cold, doesn't have allergies, just sneezes. So what you have to do when you see those particular signs occur is that you have to just say, that is anticipation, not nervousness. And I'm going to go with it rather than have it work against me. All right, number 5, suppress that negative self-talk. We talked about that. Instead of saying things like, I'm a terrible speaker. Could I ask you guys to close the door, because I think it's going to be too distracting with too many people. Thank you. Number 6, look for speaking models. So if you see somebody that's a good speaker, analyze what's good about him or her. What are the practices that they're using that would be useful for you to use? Think about it in terms of a real logical way. Now, number 7, keep your sense of humor. We get so serious. Oh my God, I have a presentation. Oh my God. The world is not going to stop for this presentation. So try to keep your sense of humor about it. So those are what I call the all-time best practices. Anybody check those off? Do you do those consistently? Okay, all right. Now, these are the things right before a presentation. I call these the pre-speech best practices. First of all, talk on subjects you know well and care about. One of the worst things you can do is step in for somebody the last minute, and this happens to us all, particularly with our bosses, who say, oh, I can't make that presentation, will you step in? And then you realize, I don't know anything about this. Okay? That is a very tough situation. Try at all costs not to get yourself in that position. Because the more you know about something, the more excited and happy you are to talk about it. I think about, being at a party and someone, you say, oh, what do you do? And someone, I don't know, they're a Civil War reenactor. Do we have any Civil War reenactors here? People are very passionate about that, very passionate. Well, I was once at a party when a guy was, like not talking to anybody, but when I asked him, what does he do, for a hobby? He talked for 30 minutes straight on Civil War reenactments. And everybody said to me, how did you get Marty to talk? I said, he was talking about something he knew well and cared about. And then the nerves just go away. So that's very, very important. If you ever find yourself in a position where you have to give a presentation on something you really don't know much about or care much about, make sure you start knowing and caring. Otherwise, you won't be successful. Number 2, get the facts about who, what, when, and where. You want to know, notice in the beginning, I asked you what size of audience you're speaking for. Because when you're speaking for 10 people versus 400 people, it's a different presentation. Okay? So the last thing you want to do is think, and I've heard so many people say this, I thought I was speaking for 20 people, and I walked into the conference and there were 80. And what do you think the anxiety level was? Ratchet it up, right? So that you don't want to do that. You want to get the facts. For example, when I coordinated this program with Toby, I asked her everything. I got your names. I got where you work. I got what the room is like. I got this, that. And I still do that. 25 years I'm doing this, I still do it. Because you want to know as much as you can about the setting. That's what makes you feel calmer. It's walking into the unknown that makes you nervous. So next is prepare well in advance.